Hello, everyone. It's Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here for Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous. I told you all that I would be getting back with Sandi again at some point, and lo and behold, I got back with Sandi. And she joined me this evening for just, I guess you could call it girl talk. We just talked a little bit about her job, her other career, and her thoughts on the campaign and where we go from here. So here's the video. Enjoy it, and please be sure to comment and throw some questions for next time inside of the comment section. Hello, everyone. It's Nicole D'Angelo, along with Sandi Gardiner for another Ask Sandi. Well, kind of, sort of. It's a Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous. I'm going to be doing a state of the game, but I wanted to talk to my friend Sandi about what she's been doing with the game, what she's doing in her personal life, and have a couple of questions for her as we approach that. Well, it will be a milestone, but I want to see how big the milestone is in the minds of the people that work at CIG. So, Sandi, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Hey, Nikki, thanks for having me on your show.
Well, it's always a pleasure. I know that a lot of times I get bent on and it gets very technical. And what I'm trying to do is get the other side of CIG through your eyes. So you've been on vacation. You just got back from England, and you also did some interviews and stuff out there. Is that what was going on?
I did. I don't know if it's necessarily called a vacation because I was working the whole time, but it was definitely a lot of fun on Thanksgiving. Over Thursday and Friday. I had interviews. One of them was with Gillian Anderson, which was pretty cool.
Scully.
Scully, I know.
She's back to being Scully.
Yeah, I had my little nerd moment. So that was nice. And I also caught up with our CS staff over there.
Yeah. Well, they're your staff, kind of, right? Sort of. Or are you still not involved with CS anymore, or are you?
I am, and I just hired a new CS manager.
Okay.
So he starts in January.
Awesome.
And I am going to go back to the UK in the first and second week of January because not that CS has become bad. It hasn't. I think our CS staff are great. It's just that I need to train them again because the team's growing bigger. We also hired another CS rep because the customer service, like now, just with an anniversary sale, it's like you get
$1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the days of Chelsea and Alexis being able to handle everything alone are long over.
Yeah,
especially
no, absolutely.
Since Chelsea's gone.
Yeah. And because, I trained Chelsea and Alexis, it's kind of very different from regular gaming customer service, I think. And so the concierge, the UK team, I haven't trained as much. And so I'm going to get over there and kind of train them how concierge gets handled.
I can tell you that my interaction with them is different than when it was Chelsea. And in the beginning, I thought it was so amazing that it was different from the rest of the community, and it kind of fell back a little bit for a while. And I'm glad to see that you're trying to move it forward, because if you guys do that, you'll be the only ones that actually treat the customers like people, like friends, and unlike I've called many different companies. I mean, try calling EA and you don't get the personalized service you used to get from the two girls that used to take care of us. So I hope that works out for us.
Yeah, I think it will. I'll train the manager, who will then kind of train the others, because it filters from the top down, and then maybe get a couple of extra dedicated concierge folks as well.
Okay. So I called it a vacation. I'm sorry. When's the last time you actually did take time off? I mean, that doesn't happen too often in your life since Star Citizen, does it?
No, I actually haven't taken a day off yet. I think I may have mentioned this before. Chris and I actually went on one holiday, and this was a couple of years ago, actually. We tried. It was supposed to be our honeymoon, and which we've never really taken. And he was working on Shotgun, dealing with the artists, and I was basically on CS, and we just looked at each other and went, okay, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is not happening. So every week I say, oh yeah, I'm going to take this holiday, and I've got them all lined up. I've got a sailing trip organized, and then I've got like a car racing trip organized with some friends. I mean, but neither of those are anywhere close to happening. I keep canceling on my friends who race cars, and they're very annoyed with me. So.
Hey, there's no dangerous stuff that you guys are allowed to do until after the game is out.
Right.
Yeah, losing Chris would be bad. Losing you would be horrible, right? So, no race
Yeah.
cars. Is
Yeah.
that like the Mario Andretti experience or whatever they call it? Richard Petty? I think that's who it. Oh God, people are gonna jump all over me. I live in the South and I don't know NASCAR. Oh whoa. So is that the type of racing that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I basically have been following Formula One since I was very small, and so
Oh, you're an
uh,
Aussie. That's right.
yeah, and so my friend was the head mechanic for Ferrari for a long, long time, and so and Australia used to be the last race, and so after
Yeah.
that we'd all go like dirt bike racing and getting all crazy after, and then we go up to the Whitsunday Islands or whatever. So
Yeah.
so
I
so
forgot.
yeah, yeah.
I kind of forget that every pastime in Australia it entails some kind of danger.
It does, yeah. I mean, literally, I think we have the second deadliest animals in the world after Africa. So, you know,
Yeah.
you could die just going into your garage if there's a redback spider or something there.
A redback spider. Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Or, a brown snake or something if you live a little bit further out.
Well, those are very deadly. Very
Yeah.
quick. Quick and deadly. Okay.
So, no, I haven't taken a holiday yet, but I do plan to sometime soon.
So you guys are nearing a milestone, or I should say we, because it's really a community and you always treat us that way. But, obviously, without what some people say, you guys are still generating revenue. What happens now? Like, yeah, you're going to hit 100 million, and that is a typical budget for a game of this size. I mean, I don't think people realize that. What next? How do you keep that going?
Well, at some point we will take the counter down. I think that what hasn't really materialized as much, probably for mainstream, is that right now for $45, sometimes it was 30, but for $45 you get basically $120 worth of game, because Squadron 42 will be a standalone $60 game, and Star Citizen is a standalone $60 game.
Right.
So we will be pushing wider, certainly with a stable 2.0. That's quite a bit of a game. And I think then it becomes more of a regular business, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Okay. Do you have plans for, I hate calling them microtransactions because they just have such a bad feeling behind them, but do you have plans? You already do. You sell skins, and I'm sure you'll be selling outfits and stuff for your people, but is that kind of one of the methods that you'll be using for generating or keeping that revenue coming in to help keep the game going?
I mean, I think there will definitely be some of that. I think that going into next year, with the plan that I have to push into a wider audience, I would see how that goes first.
Okay.
To see, I mean, we really haven't. It's all been viral and word of mouth and everything, and the large proportion of people, I don't think, want to buy into open development or a crowd-funded project. People, I think, are generally kind of skeptic.
Right.
So it's like, I'll wait till the game comes out. And I feel like 2.0 stable is pretty outstanding. So that's something where if I'm a skeptic person and I say, oh yeah, $45 and I get to do this. Okay, sure.
I'm praying for stable 2.0.
Yeah. Well, it's coming.
Okay.
So I want to see how my marketing plan goes, pushing wide, which takes pressure off existing backers to keep pledging.
Okay.
Well, not that they have to anyway, but it just if you're part of the group, you kind of feel like, oh, I want to make sure that the company does well and everything goes well. So. Yeah, I mean, tomorrow night we're at the VGAs. I'm not sure when you're airing this show, but probably people will have seen Chris and special guest at the VGAs presenting an award.
Awesome. Probably within the next 24 hours when My roommate goes to bed, I edit, and that will be until about 2 a.m. tonight. So
Oh, okay.
probably tonight.
Okay.
My question is, and a lot of it probably needs to sit down with Chris and somebody else. So maybe I'll finally get out there in March, and hopefully the stars align. And I could talk to Chris for a little bit. But the game that everybody's wanting, like I signed on for Squadron 42, but it seems like the majority of the people that I talk to are really high on the Star Citizen end of it also, or primarily. Primarily. And they look at that game as having like being a living, breathing entity of its own. And to actually create something like that, you'd have to create a bigger staff in a different direction. Kind of a live team to keep the universe living and breathing and, continuously building new missions and new storylines in there. So when I ask you how do you generate revenue, how do you see the revenue that you're generating helping to affect that piece of it, to keep the game going, to keep the game living and breathing, to make it its own living being?
I definitely think that Star Citizen will be enough to go along on its own, for sure. Squadron 42, when it drops next year for the first installment of Squadron 42, I think we'll be able to, fingers crossed that it sells as many copies as I hope it will. And if that's the case, then that business also runs by itself and would generate enough revenue to just basically keep going. And somebody like Aaron's team has certainly got the experience in that because they did, all the Lego games and stuff where it's tight deadlines. And, I remember every Christmas, because basically they had a lot of deadlines around Christmas time. And I remember it was like, up until the 24th, they were always pushing out their content. But they always delivered stuff on time and on budget. So,
yeah, that was one of the best, I should say one of the biggest milestones for me when I look back on the development of this game is when Chris stood up there during that first Citizen Con, or maybe it was the second one. It was the first one, and announced that Aaron was coming on board. And I was like, that's it. This is for real now. And that's when I dumped all my money into the game. As soon as I saw him in, I was like, yep, it's a go now. So
yeah, I think we have a pretty decent kind of, I wouldn't call it Team A and Team B, but there's, obviously some of Squadron 42 does support the PU, but then we have that whole team that's focused on PU stuff, and there's Tony, Sean, Todd Pappy, and the Frankfurt team are really awesome.
Okay. So this is actually taking your career and your whole life in a totally different direction than where you expected it to be. If Star Citizen didn't come into being, where would you be right now? What would you be doing?
I'm sure I'd probably be on the TV show or something like that.
Do you miss it?
Like being on a TV show or like doing
acting? Yeah, being an actress.
I'm still doing it. I just shot a TV pilot that I can't talk about.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, as you do. And probably if I did talk about it, I would jinx myself and it would never get picked up. But now that I've said that, it won't get picked up.
Knock wood.
Yeah, exactly, knock wood. So I've been doing that on the weekends and when I can. But Star Citizen still needs me for as long as it needs me.
You scared everybody.
Yeah,
at Citizen Con. You scared everybody, and I sat there going, we just talked within the last week or two, and she didn't say that she was about ready to say this, and then you totally veered off, and I'm like, all right, that was just an emotional moment. It wasn't her getting ready to say something.
No. That would be one hell of a way to open a party, right? Hey, everybody, I'm quitting.
Yeah, right. No.
No. I think, what happened was that the opening of it it's different reading a letter out loud to thousands of people than just writing it.
Oh, believe me, I understand. When I used to do Confessions of a Star Citizen Addict, where I'd have people write their own little story, and some would be fiction, some would be real, and I was reading somebody's real story. It took me like 30 takes to get through it without crying. It was
Right,
just
right.
very emotional, and I don't know how you do it. I mean, you're an actor; you're supposed to be able to do it.
Right, right. I know,
Yeah,
but that wasn't really acting though. That was,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I
it's,
gotcha.
so. But
So, do you feel fulfilled? I mean, with what you're doing, like your job, you never expected to be, the director of marketing for, at this point, I mean, one of the most, um, I want to say, you're not a major gaming company, but major accomplishments for a gaming company. So, do you feel?
yeah, do I feel fulfilled? Yeah. I mean, I did it basically to help Chris out at the time. So that, I mean, yes, it's definitely a personal achievement. However, and it's not to sound like arrogant or egotistical or anything, but I am really good at selling things, or I've always been really good at marketing.
Okay.
So it's kind of one of those things where I don't, I think the best thing about it is really the community for me. Like I've made some really cool friends, and I see people connecting through the game, and that's just like something really special, I think.
Okay. I'm sorry, I
So
cut you off.
yeah, yeah. So no, so yes, I do feel fulfilled. It's great to um, go around our new office, and it's like, wow, none of this would kind of be happening if 3.5 years ago, Chris and I hadn't sat there and I said, right, you're going to crowdfund it on your own platform.
That's awesome. I mean, watching it from not midway, but like almost a year into it, to me, it just seemed like this big snowball that started rolling down. And as I started to talk to you and get to know you, I saw that at first I thought that you were just like this person that got caught up in it. But after talking to you over and over again, I kind of feel like you like it. Like it's one of these challenges that you were feeling like, wow, it wasn't what I wanted to do, but wow, I'm doing great at it. Like, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I definitely suffer from, I don't know if it's suffer, but I have quite a bit of OCD for things.
that's
And
good. Thank
so
God.
so I think it's really good to, like, that's not great. I mean, for certain elements of acting, that's not a great quality. So, but it is definitely great for what I'm doing at the moment because of the attention to detail and the follow through and the obsession to write all of the details kind of in my head for all the different departments, which I think would be probably really difficult to find in one person.
Okay.
I always say to Chris, I'm like, you would be really bored if he could see. He's like, oh, I love my wife, but I'm like, yeah, you'd be really bored if it wasn't me because there's like 10 women in like one person. It's all my different personalities are kind of fulfilled with the different things I do, whether it's merchandise and that appeals to the background I've had in fashion, and customer service appeals to the background I've had in hospitality. What else do I do? Marketing. I mean, like I said, I've always been marketing's been something I've always been good at. So it's nice to be able to do it in something that kind of helps everybody, and it's something new too that's breaking the mold of. I mean, because I said to Chris, I said, well, I would never apply for this job. You'd never get me applying to any gaming company for a marketing job. I just wouldn't do it. So it's kind of interesting. Like I kind of, in the beginning, I kind of fell into it, but then, I like it. But then I think to myself, well, it would be hard for another gaming company to replicate because you're not going to find that candidate. Do you know what I mean?
I understand. I mean,
Yeah.
when you were looking for someone to work with you, you went through a lot of trouble finding that perfect person.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
definitely. Well, we were going to have you at one point.
yeah,
Stuck in Atlanta.
my kids
Well,
are here.
I know. We got commitments and stuff. Yeah.
And Apple is such a wonderful company to work for. It's hard to look at them and look at the passion that you have for working for them, and then
Okay.
to put you guys up against it. It's difficult. I could work for the person who I idolize, or I could work for the company that's like it right now. That was a
Right.
tough decision.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you.
Thank God my kids were young and I didn't have to make the decision. I just had to look at them and go, I can't leave you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Vincent's doing really well.
Awesome.
We're still looking for the marketing coordinator position. But it's kind of like I need to be training Vincent because there's a certain way, obviously, that we do things. It's kind of hard to. It's like, when I say, okay, well, I'm one of the best saleswomen out there, um, but the trick is really not selling. and then
Welcome to my job.
and then Vince is like, what? So
Yeah.
we're training on how to do things and stuff. But I'm excited to push wide next year into the market.
Okay. So there's some things that people are going to want to know as we close out. And the biggest one is going to be, everyone asks about the Saitek joystick. Every time I talk to Ben, everybody wants to know about it. And that's kind of a deal that you helped to put together. Now, I know that this is going to get done in the next year. Are there other people knocking on your door to do similar deals? Other hardware or software, apparel? Is it easier now than it was in the beginning?
I don't know if it's easier now than it was in the beginning. I feel like everybody has kind of approached us. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like certainly when we did the joysticks, we went through all of the
You had a million
brands.
Logitech joysticks in there when I visited.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we went through all of them, and not to say one brand is better than the other. It's just that Saitek were really keen on making it specific for Star Citizen, and we're able to go the extra mile.
Okay.
Even with like Logitech, all the tools that they'd had for the 940, like they'd already broken them down accidentally, or however that happened, and so.
Yeah. That was horrible because that was a good joystick and they just put it out and then took it away.
Yeah, I
So
think those things,
it's not a big market though. I mean, when you think about
yeah.
gaming as a market, it's not as big as a mouse or keyboard market,
No, no.
Yeah, I mean joysticks I'm talking about.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. We should be getting the coming soon page up soon.
Okay. Are you
Soon,
still
yeah.
doing all three models, the low, mid, and high, or are you going to
I think
combine a couple of
I
them?
think it's low and high,
Low and
right?
high?
I could be wrong. I didn't think there was a middle one. I thought it was 149, which is the one that we're selling this month,
Right.
pre-ordering, and 550.
550. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the one that I think I'm going to have to wait for because I've got the X55 already.
Yeah.
So
Which
that's
is
already
kind
a 149 model. It's a lower
yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Though it was like 299 new. It's definitely a 199 joystick.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of pricey.
yeah. And you guys had an amazing milestone to announce at the game. It wasn't Gamescom. That was at CitizenCon when you broke 1 million. I guess it would be 1 million registered users, 1 million backers, 1 million people that have had some kind of fly free. And how does that compare with like the milestone that you guys are going to break in the next week or so, which will be the $100 million?
For me, it's more the million people. However, I do, it's just that number that kind
When
of
you're
sounds.
competitive, that number
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, sure, the number sounds great, right? Um, yeah, I mean, I don't, we're already the Guinness World Record holder for a crowd fund of anything. So,
I think the 1 million people, when you look at it, they're the ones that winning them over and getting them to the web page to me is like the ultimate goal. And the money comes in from you guys delivering on them. So happy customers, happy people that are in your game are going to give you the money and it's just going to come. And they're going to stay happy as long as you're producing what you promised. And I think that's the way that I look at that. Yeah, you got the 1 million people. Of course you're going to hit 100 million,
right, right.
$100 a piece. Holy cow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it kind of averages out. There's your concierge, and then there's your $30, $45 people.
Right.
I mean, I definitely think for $45, it's a great deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if you, I mean, well, because back in the Kickstarter days, you could have bought a $30 package, and even though you've waited 3 years, I think it's still like, I mean, $30. That's nothing. Like,
You've already delivered a $30 game,
yeah, but also
and
I also, not just the game, but to me, it feels like there's like the entertainment value for me is like a lot too. I mean, you don't even really need to pledge to do that. You can watch all the shows, and you can come to events. So I guess you have to pay to come to an event, but still, it's like somebody with a common interest. Like, you get that out of the way, right? And then you're kind of making a friend, because you have that love of playing space video games.
okay. Now, last year, it was a few months ago, you came to Dragon Con, and we turned away a few people. That's a bad thing, but also it tells a tale, because the prior year we were in that same room and we didn't fill it. So do you see that trend still? Do you think it's going to continue, that you're going to be selling out or filling these halls as the next year goes on?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Gamescom, that just keeps kind of exploding every year.
You have to be working on that by now, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
We have sponsors for everything, and we're going to do a booth that's a little bigger.
Okay.
Kitty. And sorry, I got distracted by the kitty.
It's okay.
What's happening now? What am I saying?
We're talking about Gamescom. You have a booth.
Yep. And CitizenCon was a little bigger. So I think it's a nice expansion. I definitely think that we'll just keep expanding it. I mean, you don't want to sometimes expand it too much.
Okay.
Like, say, with CitizenCon, I kind of capped it at the whatever it was, 850 or however many were there. Because once you pull over, like the Gamescom, for example, when it's 2,000 people, Chris can't sign posters anymore at that point.
Okay.
It's too many people.
Last question goes backwards from the amazing answers you just gave. And it's just to give a little bit of information to people that have asked me this many times. You sold the Constellation model at one point, and I know that was kind of hard because you guys went over the top with the quality of that model, which I am thankful for. It's wonderful. Have you gotten together with anybody that does either 3D printing or those models to do models of other ships in the future? And that's just, I forget the person that asked that, but they'll know.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely can. We're almost sold out of the Constellation models now. The minimum number, what costs the most money is like the initial setup. So we can definitely do other ships and everything with enough interest. So maybe we could, poll people, and whatever ship comes up, then that we could make that one.
So you guys do the metal. I mean, the model, for those of you that don't know, it's a metal model. It's got pieces that are plastic, pieces that are metal, and it's way more than what you would get out of a typical 3D printed model. But what other people are looking at is that some of the companies like World of Warcraft and Star Wars, they have, and Kerbal Space Program, they do 3D print of their character. Is that something that you might think of doing after people start making their characters with the character builder?
Yeah, we were just talking about that for John Rhys Davies' character today, actually.
Oh, cool.
And so we may do that, like as Squadron 42 gets closer to release, we may look at doing, our star cast, like Mark Hamill, Gary Oldman, John Rhys Davies, and Gillian Anderson, and so
that'll be awesome. You were great today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, always. I love talking to you, Sandi, and talking from an undisclosed location. She's not at her office today, which I'm sure is just white walls at this point. Correct?
Yeah, I've got a lot of Skype calls today, and so the construction is a little noisy.
Oh, yeah, I understand. But thank you so much for joining me, and I'm sure in the next few months we'll get back together again. I know I will see you late February or early March this year. Hopefully You're there.
Yep, anytime.
Okay.
Yay.
Thank you so much. And with that said, folks, you all be safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.